Have you ever pictured a station wagon not as a car with a big trunk, but as a piece of your house on wheels? Like a family road trip without the usual chaos, without bags crammed everywhere, without kids fighting in the back seat, without sunlight blasting the driver's face? Now imagine that in the early 1960s. Yeah, Ford imagined it, and they gave it a name, Aurora. The Aurora was a concept car, the kind you roll out at a big show, a window into tomorrow. And it wasn't movie future, it was engineer future and designer future, arguing with each other in real time. The goal wasn't to sell it next year, it was to test reactions, to see what people would accept, what felt ridiculous, and what might actually become normal later on. And here's the part most folks miss. The Aurora didn't want to be just another pretty wagon. It was quietly saying wagons could stop being stretched sedans and become their own category with their own solutions.
When you look at the Aurora, it feels like somebody said, let's design a car like it's a lit-up living room, and then we'll figure out how it moves. Because the theme tying the whole thing together is light. Light so you can see, light so you can be seen, and light you can control inside, like you're sliding a dimmer switch in your house. And that's where the good kind of madness starts.
Up front, it already breaks the rules of its era. Instead of that huge open mouth of a grille, it tried to look cleaner, more aerodynamic. The idea was to feed air through side inlets and use the flow over the hood to help pull heat out through the radiator zone. In plain words, keep it cool without wrecking the shape of the nose. Today, that sounds normal, but back then, on an American car, it was borderline heresy. Big cars loved big chrome grills.
Then your eyes climb and you get hit with it. Glass, glass, and more glass. The windshield wraps up into the roofline, that classic wraparound feel, and it makes the cabin feel wide open. But a wide open cabin on a long trip comes with a problem: sun and heat. And this is where the Aurora pulls its cleanest trick.
Think of it like two layers that either line up or cross each other, changing how much light gets through. When it's friendly, you get a softer glow. When it crosses, it darkens and the glare is gone. That's not just fluff. Anyone who's driven into hard sunlight knows it. Glare wears you out, shortens your patience, gives you headaches, and steals your attention. Ford was basically saying light control is part of safety.
And since we're talking light, the Aurora leaned into electroluminescent lighting in places around the car, along the body, in identification areas, in details. A cooler, more even kind of glow, meant to become a visual signature and to make the car easier to notice at night. Today, we talk about DRLs and light signatures like it's normal. Back then, it was a message. The car can communicate with the world around it. Now, here's one people never forget: the headlights. Instead of two big lamps or four, it used a cluster of small ones, like a bank of lights. The logic was to control brightness in steps, spread it better, and keep redundancy. One burns out, the rest still work. It makes sense, but it's also the kind of thing that turns into a maintenance headache once you think about cost, standards, real-life repairs. That's concept cars for you. They don't have to be friendly to the mechanic. They just have to feel believable as the future.
Then you get to the back. Ford cooked up a rear opening that feels like something off a spacecraft. The lower section becomes a step, and the upper section lifts and slides back, leaving a clean opening. No big gates swinging out and eating space behind the car. The goal was easier entry, especially for kids, and easier loading. But that rear opening wasn't just a party trick. It was the doorway to the Aurora's most family-first idea. Picture it: long drive, the parents up front trying to hold on to their sanity, and the kids in back, unlimited energy, unlimited noise. The Aurora proposed a rear compartment meant for kids, accessed from the back, with the controversial detail: a glass divider with sound isolation. So the kids get their zone, and the adults get a calmer space to drive. You can debate that idea all day, But as design thinking, it's brilliant because it admits a truth. A car isn't just a machine, it's shared living. And to complete the living room mindset, it leaned into entertainment like it belonged at home. Radio, communications ideas, even the concept of a TV in the cabin. Sounds wild now, but remember the era. Television was becoming the center of the living room.
Now, the heart of the Aurora, the center section. Instead of rigid rows, it was more like a lounge, a swiveling chair, a curved sofa, indirect lighting overhead. The intention was conversation, comfort, a trip that felt more human. American cars already had comfort back then, but it was seat comfort. Here, they were chasing environment comfort. Then you step into the driver's spot and the tone changes. Ford treated it like a command post, supportive seat, long-distance comfort, and a different steering setup, a bar instead of a wheel, power-assisted, very quick ratio. On paper, you go, wow, that's responsive. In real life, you go, half a turn lock to lock. What happens when something jumps out? That's the line. Concept cars don't live the daily street life, they test the edge. And the dash hinted at smart ideas too. Warnings, lane guidance concepts, speed control thinking. Not modern tech, obviously, but the mindset was there. The car can guide the driver.
And then comes the question everyone asks. Why didn't it go to production? Because between the show floor and the street, there's a canyon called reality. Cost, complexity, reliability, repairs, safety rules, crash standards, sealing, noise, and above all, users. Users slam doors, spill drinks, ignore maintenance, break delicate systems. The street doesn't forgive. A lot of what the Aurora offered needed a cleaner, more controlled world than the real one. And as safety rules evolved, plenty of those ideas became nearly impossible to package.
But here's the thing. Even without becoming a production car, the Aurora left fingerprints. The obsession with lighting, glare control, signature illumination, those became massive themes decades later. The idea of the cabin as an environment, ergonomics as priority, the car designed around real family use, that stuck too. The Aurora is the kind of car that doesn't fail. It does its job. It plants a seed. Whenever I see a concept like this, I picture a quiet shop at the end of the day, standing there, looking at it and saying, they really dreamed big. And dreaming big is sometimes what nudges the whole industry forward one step. The Aurora never became a street wagon, but it became a question that still hits today. What if a car was more home and less cramped?